Les is here. Les Thatcher.
Yes.
How you doing today?
Am I impressed by tall, muscular guys? That's a loaded question, David.
Kind of is. Actually, Les has, you know what, we have talked about this in the past, but not a lot. But Les also has tremendous experience in the bodybuilding world as well as the wrestling world. So, I don't know what that has to do with this other than tall, muscular guys. I don't know. We should ask you about, what was that thing? We get emails about, how close are you following bodybuilding these days, Les?
I subscribe to Flex, so, I get a chance to scan through it, and that's about it.
So you're not, like, going to shows or anything like that anymore?
I haven't been to a show in a couple of years, Dave.
Okay. Because we get emails about Ronnie Coleman, who obviously you are fully aware of.
Oh,
Mr.
sure.
Olympia. Mr. Olympia, I think 2 years running.
Three now.
3?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, see, I'm behind. I knew you just won it.
Yeah, that was the third one.
Okay. Wow. Well, I actually saw him it was 4 years ago. I saw him. Was the last time I saw him at a show here in San Jose. And it was funny because he ended up finishing, I think it was 8th in that Olympia, and I saw him about, I don't know, a month before. And I was, when you have no one else to compare this guy to.
Right.
And you see this guy walking in, he did a guest posing thing. And when I saw him, I was going like, he's going to win the Mr. Olympia. Of course, I didn't see what everyone else looked like. And, just with nobody else to compare him to, And he ended up finishing 8th, and I was going like, my God, what do those other 7 guys look like? But then the next year he won. So. But anyway, what was it? Ronnie Coleman, what does he say?
0.33% body fat.
Are you sure he didn't mean 3.3?
I think it's more like 3.3.
I can buy 3.3.
Yes.
Anyway. Yeah, that was a little much to take.
Yeah, that he would be dead, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
You know what? The lengths the guys go to not get sodium and fat in their diet toward the end of the contest. That would make a book in itself, some of the odd things that people do.
I also like the part about how he's kind of trying to insinuate that he doesn't take steroids. And then he goes, I eat a lot of pizza and hamburgers.
Growth hormone is not considered a steroid.
And you think...
No, wait a minute. You're right about that. Okay, but most of the guys are doing many different things. It's not like there's a one drug secret. It's like loads of stuff that we're probably not even familiar with some of it these days.
Oh, it's so sophisticated, I'm sure, at this point in time. I possibly, when he, what amateur contest did he win so he got his pro card? I don't even remember, do you?
Oh, that's going back years.
Yeah, but he, at that point, he claimed clean. And I would say with his structure and genetics, there's a possibility he was there.
I met him, I'm trying to get the year, 1994. We happened to be on the same airplane going to San Jose.
Right.
And we're sitting a couple seats away and talked on the whole flight. And he was so much smaller then than he is now. I mean, probably I would say 60 to 80 pounds smaller 6 years ago. And he was already a professional competitor because he was competing in a pro contest that he was going to. And that is when he was claiming to be drug-free. And, I mean, it's just amazing seeing the guy. So let's see. So I saw him 4 years ago and 6 years ago. So in those 2 years, he probably went, oh, God, I'm guessing 50-pound in-shape difference.
Yeah. Well, look at Wheeler. Wheeler was a Suavette 225 probably when he first came into the pros. And I was just reading in the Flex here in this last Olympia, he was like 242, I think, or something like that. So, And for his frame, that extra 20 pounds is a lot of weight.
Wow. Let's get back.
But he was smooth. You could see his lower back. It was smooth. He was holding water in his lower back.
Let's get back. No, that's it. When you do that at the Olympia, that's it.
That is it. That's like first and 10th.
Yeah.
It's like
a lot of those guys didn't look in that great a shape, honestly. I mean, that
what
sharp.
Happened?
Sean Ray, as sharp as he gets, he didn't look as good I thought, as years past.
Is that diuretic crackdown?
Yes, I would think that's probably part of it.
Yeah.
I would think that's probably part of it.
Or maybe they read in the magazines that Coleman was eating burgers and pizza, and everyone does what the guy who wins does. That's the whole game.
But I would think with the way they stack that stuff coming into the end, let's say the last week run in, they could probably eat Big Macs. Their system is so cranked. They would burn it off so fast, probably wouldn't matter. I remember seeing Banal at the Arnold. We were in the restaurant at the Hyatt Capitol Square where we all stayed, and after the pre-judge, he came in there and scarfed down this huge salad bowl, like a big Caesar salad bowl full of pasta. Now, I've done natural. If I'd done something like that, I'd have been smooth as hell by the evening show. And he just got harder and tighter.
Yeah.
So I mean, once you get cranked up on the stuff, man, it's.
Yeah, it's one thing. It's like, it's very different training without drugs in your system than training with drugs in your system. Like when you it's like you can train so much more on drugs without overtraining also.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I know training with guys.
Where these guys are doing like 1 million sets for each body part and everything like that. No normal human being could do that.
No, you can't.
No. Well, and honestly, some of the pros are like that. The few that I've had the opportunity to train with aren't that obsessive. I think that's part of the myth. None of them scream like bonsai warriors.
I've never seen a pro do that in my life.
On the wall or anything.
I've seen pros train for years. I've never seen anyone train like the only people who do that are like 18-year-old
skinny tall guys.
I had the opportunity.
The seniors in high school on the squat rack.
Tom Platz's wife is from here, and Bobby used to train at the gym that I manage here. And I had the opportunity to train with Tom, chest, and watch him train several body parts. And I'll tell you this, when I fell out, when I had enough, I was still spotting him and getting almost as good a pump because he was using 100. This was at the back end of the workout, so this was his cool down, so to speak. He was using 100-pound dumbbells on the incline bench, and I was freezing him out at the top, and he'd say, "Okay, let it down," and freeze him out again about mid-range, and then to bring him down again. And we did four sets like that, and I was pumped again, and I had finished 4 sets earlier. I just didn't have anything left. I've seen him train arms where he had fatigued the bicep to the degree that about his wife, he had a 20-pound dumbbell in his hand, and she would lift it for him to the top of the movement.
And he'd go down slow?
Yes. And she would pick it back up for him again. But Tom talks intense. He's just an intense person. He's the Benoit of bodybuilding.
Oh, okay.
He just exudes that intensity. But it seems like that's what it takes to excel, right?
Mm-hmm. That and other things.
That and the right friends.
What are you trying to say, Brian?
Oh, nothing.
That and the right friends.
I'm not talking about Benoit, of course.
Huh?
I'm not referring to Benoit, of course.
That and the right friends. Les, I don't know. What's your thoughts on wrestling right at this moment?
Wow, it's kind of scary to think there might be only one company in the next 6 months.
No.
Just from the competitive standpoint, or to keep, I always thought ECW was a good feeder. Paul would probably kill me for saying that, but I always thought that, and I told you, the other day that honestly I thought it'd been great if Vince had got WCW. Simply because he takes pride in his product. He doesn't want to fail, and I think if they, from the rumors they would have put JR down there in the driver's seat, I think he takes that, that same stance. And if he comes in prepared to do that the way he comes in prepared to do a show, I think it would be good for the product, for the industry as a whole. Now I'm not sure what the hell is going to happen.
You worked with a lot of the younger guys there for a while, and then they kind of took it away from you.
Yeah.
What's your thought as far as have the younger guys from an attitude standpoint, have they been poisoned by the attitude of the other guys, or do they have that attitude and it's just they're in the wrong, and it's just the that environment doesn't allow them to get any further.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of that. I think they're good guys. I think they honestly are competitive. But I think this whole thing is I don't know if you lay the blame any place. It's just the time and the place is to bring those guys out, throw them into the fire, so to speak. Have a girl beat them one week and expect them to beat one of the top guys the next week. I don't know who gets over in that particular situation.
You were in the business at the same time Buddy Rogers was still in the business.
Actually,
is that right?
Yes.
Wow.
Rogers was my idol as a kid. And
I would have thought that because you grew up out of Ohio, right?
Yes. Yes, he was actually a big baby face around here. Every place else in the country, he was a heel.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. The thing, I never got to work with the guy. That's one of the things I always wanted to do. We were just never in the same place at the same time. You
weren't there when he came to you were already gone from the Carolinas when he came in at the very end of his career?
Yes.
With Ric Flair?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was up helping Ron Fuller run the Knoxville territory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So now when you were growing up, I'm assuming you probably saw Buddy Rogers, Carl Gotch, Bill Miller, maybe Wilbur Snyder. Who were the top guys in that area?
Yeah, my first experience with wrestling was Al Haft was the top promoter out of Columbus.
Right. They had a great territory for that era, right?
Yeah, it's one of the great territories. They were running sometimes 3 towns a night. He had now I'm saying like I know, told by guys that were working there at that point in time, he had as many as 70 guys on his roster at one time.
Wow.
And I've heard some of the guys say that a preliminary guy, if he dropped below, when the territory was really hot, if he dropped below $250 a week, he started looking for a place to go. Now, $250 a week back in 1951 or 52 was a lot of money.
Yeah, that was.
And for a preliminary guy, it was quite a bit of change.
Well, that's also that's the network TV era too.
Yeah.
So when business was booming, it's funny because when we talk about wrestling, when you've been through it for a long, long time, wrestling has always had its ups and downs. I mean, it's had, like sometimes people think that this period that we just had, which was economically the biggest period in the history of the business.
Right.
But if you look at the standards, I mean, there were periods where in other ways, wrestling was just as big. Early 50s, it's on network TV every week.
Sure.
With all these flourishing territories and weekly towns that were all, drawing well. I mean, there's been a lot of up periods in wrestling and downs.
Yeah, I think though, the business has become so mainstream now, in so many ways that I think you're experiencing a plateau maybe now, and there's going to be a down period, but I don't think it will be as severe as in years past for that very reason. Because it's not such of a cult thing now.
Yeah, but the problem is that there's literally only one strong company.
Yeah.
I mean, even like in 90, that period from 92 to 95 when business was very bad, and literally no company, except for maybe Randy Hales because they were paying production and it was or Jerry Jarrett, I should say. Randy Hales was the GM. That may have been the only profitable company because Cornette wasn't making money at Smokey as much as people liked his product. And WCW was always in that era losing money. Vince was losing money. ECW, as it existed with Todd Gordon, was certainly not making any money.
No.
But, at that time, I was never worried as much about wrestling because there were so many companies, and none of them seemed they weren't making money. It wasn't like any of them were going to go out of business either.
Right.
And now you've got ECW hanging by a thread. You've got WCW, God only knows what's going on there. And then you got WWF doing great, but it's like the feeling of, there could be one company and they're sitting there, basically able to pick and choose because everybody wants to go there now. And everyone else is just, worried about, what's going to happen with my house payment in 6 months. You know what I mean?
Sure, exactly. Well, and the thing, you say everybody wants to go there, but they're so deep in talent now, I don't know how much more they can do.
Exactly.
You can only saturate. Then you have guys on your payroll you're paying and they don't work. Which
right.
was the case with WCW a year and a half ago.
Yeah, even a little bit now.
Yeah.
A little bit.
But
now,
I would like to. There's the thing. I don't know. I don't think WCW will stay and tread water if that's going to be the case. Of course, you would probably know more up to date rumors than I would. But but if they're really just going to stay, keep the cost down, maybe even downsize even further, and just try to tread water and hope the thing comes up, I think that's disastrous. I mean, if somebody's got to do something, it's going to cost some money.
Well, somebody's got to be in charge.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's a circus.
Right.
And that's the sad thing. I mean, just some of the stuff the last week. I mean, I don't know if you heard about the thing for Monday, but you know, there's no Nitro on Monday. It's going to be on Tuesday, and they never even promoted that.
No, I didn't know.
Or knew about it.
Yeah.
That's the worst part.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, nobody knew about it. I mean, it was in TV Guide. Okay, there were people in the company who knew about it. Well, in November, early November, but somehow it never. You know, nobody mentioned on the air on Nitro or Thunder that there's not going to be a Nitro. Well, there will be a Nitro on Tuesday, and then Nitro's preempted on Monday. So I mean, except for wrestling fans who are on the internet, everybody else is going to be tuning in Monday at 8:00, and they're going to see a David Copperfield special, and they're going to have no idea what's going on, and that's the final Monday before Starrcade.
Right. Exactly. So they'll lose a little of their audience, whatever audience they still have. Well, I think the whole thing down. Nobody wants to make a decision.
Yeah.
No one's assured of their job, and so if you don't make any decisions, you can't make any mistakes.
Nothing gets done.
Huh?
And then nothing gets done.
No, absolutely. I agree with you 110%. I know there were times, during the period that I was, with them, that, I would need an answer to a question, and literally there was no answer.
Yeah.
And the shame of it is there's some good minds down there. I mean, in terms of the wrestling business from an administrative standpoint, but they're all lame ducks. There's nobody that has any power, so to speak.
Yeah, and they're probably the most worried.
Yes.
Because if they do something wrong, they may wind up with no job in wrestling in a very little bit of time.
Sure. I think, Bush had the most realistic approach in as much as far as a timetable, because he agreed that it was a 2-year turnaround to get the thing back profitable again. And I think that's realistic.
I think that the whole thing is that you got to have someone sitting there building for the idea of 2 years from now, because it can't turn around anytime soon.
No, and so the more they play the way it is now, and changing the guy's gimmick every third week, and having partners against each other 2 days after you make them as partners, that makes it a weaker product all the time.
Yeah, and one of the things I think that's also gone is fans can't. To me, one of the things that you need for a successful company, and Vince had it with The Rock and with Austin, is you have a baby face that the fans are really with, and they, I don't want to say live and die with, but close to it.
Right.
Someone who they really can identify with on the top of the card. And WCW doesn't have that because they turn people so often that you can't get emotionally involved in anyone because their character is going to change and they're going to disappoint you anyway.
Right.
Plus, the ones that they haven't turned, they don't understand how to book. Look at all the times you've got one heel, three baby faces.
Yeah, they have no idea of that psychology. That's true. That's another problem.
No, none. No,
yeah.
The whole everything is it's mishmash. It's like throw it against the wall and see what sticks. And I'm not sure. Does anybody really know who has the final say off of that committee?
Well, right now, as far as writing the television, it's Ed Ferrara. But I don't know what authority he has because, I'm sure he can be overruled too by talent. I was. Right.
Apparently he doesn't take it as much as lowbrow comedy as Russo did, but still I see too much of that. I thought that thing the other night. Now, to me, when Luger brought Sarge out in the rack, here was the time to break Goldberg's streak, and put some steam on Douglas, for God's sake, because he's one guy you got that can work when he's healthy and can talk, and also puts more steam on Luger and Goldberg going into the pay-per-view, right?
Well, they kind of wrote themselves into a corner by saying if he loses, he's out.
Yeah, they need to get rid of that thing so they can book him better.
Well, then why don't you bring your new CEO in and make him a strong babyface, which is what everybody wants him to be anyway, and he overrides this, that, and the other thing, and do an Eddie Graham Professor Malenko cowboy lateral thing out of it.
I don't know that one. Tell us.
Well, that's the one with the teeth.
Oh, I know I know the teeth.
Yeah.
Oh.
Where Eddie broke Malenko's false teeth.
Right, and then
Malenko had him suspended. Or if Eddie would have paid for the teeth, he could continue to wrestle. But it was the principle of the thing he said, and he wouldn't pay for those teeth. So then he was suspended, and he couldn't lay a hand on Larry. So then for weeks thereafter, Malenko would get in his face and insult him and yada, and all this sort of thing, and build up. And finally, Luttrell, the promoter of record, comes out and says, I can't stand this. Eddie's, great athlete being harassed, and he needs deserves a right at this idiot because, blah, blah, blah. Here, I'll pay for the fine. Bam, lift the suspension. We got a match.
That's a good angle.
Yes.
Well, it drew a ton of money. I mean, I know that much.
Yes.
Oh. This is from Mark Volzer, who goes, I'm a graduate student in Memphis, and I was planning on starting wrestling school here in January. I want to know if Les had an opinion which school would be a better option, Don Bass's school that's affiliated with Power Pro Wrestling or Buddy Wayne's school that is not connected with either of the promotions in town. I don't know, are you familiar with either of those?
I know both of the guys. They're both, were good workers. They both are mentally equipped to do the job, I think. I don't know. I always invite people to my place to get acquainted, watch a training session. I would suggest he goes to both places, and it's kind of like a comfort level for him maybe too. Who he gets along with best. He may have a better chemistry with Wayne than Bass or vice versa.
I got a question. As far as like some of the guys that in WCW, Natural Born Thrillers and stuff that you worked with for a while earlier, what's your thoughts on their potential, where they are right now, what they need? I mean, I know that a lot of them need promo, work on the promos.
Yeah, a lot of them need in-ring refinement. And of course, doing the short little 3-minute things you're doing, they're not going to get that anyway, which leaves them ill-equipped on a pay-per-view if they've got to do 15 minutes. When I say, it's body language, foot placement, body gestures in a certain time and, rhythm to correspond with what you're doing, psychology to a certain degree, stuff like that. I've always, I find out with my kids, I never sent out it was like no big magical formula I thought I had to make these kids technically sound, but I just tried to pound that little stuff home. And I find that my kids go out places and, work with other guys, and they seem to carry it in that regard. But to me, that's where it starts. We got too many guys who can do hurricanranas and don't know what a wrist lock is. And I think the holes are still your transitional thing. That's, you got to build something in between the big spots.
Well, and also you have to do the big spots when you build up to them rather than just do them.
Sure.
I mean, sometimes some of those guys, I was watching Jindrak and O'Hare on Monday, and for big, tall guys, they are, they're tremendously agile. I mean, you were the one who told me about O'Hare before anybody else. And you were saying, he was like Don Leo Jonathan.
Oh, they're all good athletes. Palumbo too. When I look at Chuck, his look, that's just, to me, money. He's got that look. But, again, and this is not to take away from him or Sanders or any of those guys. They're all, what little time I had to spend with them, they're good kids, I think. They all want to do the right thing. They don't need to be in this pressure cooker, because you can't learn in this environment. These guys, you don't have the time. And I think that's, they don't know how to build a match. They can't go out there and put shift gears. If they go out there and find out that the people aren't buying it, they can't change directions out there in the middle of the match.
Plus they have no house shows,
Right, well, sure.
Nowhere to learn but on TV in front of millions of people.
What I really would have felt, initially, when we first started, the dealings with WCW, the guys were supposed to come in here 2-3 months at a time, and basically this was going to be the postgraduate course where we did, the fine-tuning, the body language, facial expressions, psychology, et cetera, et cetera. And then when, things changed and they thought that was too long a period, well, I would say, okay, well, even if you used them on TV, send them to me on Wednesday morning after Thunder. Then I've got them Wednesday, Thursday in my gym, Friday in my gym if we don't have a show, Saturday on a show, which we could tape, come back in the gym on Sunday, review the tapes, work on the stuff, put them back on the bird on Monday, And that would have helped, but they don't get that chance. And working 3-minute matches with 40 run-ins, you can't build on that.
Whatever happened to Gangrel?
What did happen to him?
He's relegated to 8.
The last I'd heard, they were going to send him to Memphis to form a team with Tom Howard, and then I never heard about either of those guys ever again. So
it's not a thing. Why did Reckless Youth? What was the deal there?
Don't know. They weren't that happy with him in Memphis as far as like his progress and everything. I mean, every now and then when I would hear people, when I would ask that name and stuff, I never got that enthusiastic reaction that you get with some of the guys. And then when his contract was up, I guess they didn't renew him. That's the only thing I could think of.
I know Tommy's a good kid. I always thought he needed, and I used to tease him on the square about it sometimes. I said, learn a wrist lock. The high flying stuff's good, but put the psychology in there and go to a gym. You look like a CPA. You are a CPA.
What?
That should have been his gimmick. That would have solved half the problem.
What's that?
His gimmick being a CPA?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Then he could have been Stevie's CPA, right? Put him in a suit.
Real quick, Brian, I want you to go through this. We got an email about the Observer website poll question because, of course, it's not easy to find unless you know how to look for it.
Yeah, for some strange reason, the poll is not on the main page. But if you click on any of the links from the feature section or the interview section or the top story section, it should appear on the right side of the screen. Okay,
so that's the story on that. Okay, let's go to Matt in Vancouver. Matt, what's going on?
Hi, how are you guys doing today?
We're doing very good.
Hey, Les, how's it going?
Good. Yourself?
I'm doing really good. I'm not like genetically or steroid enhanced of a person. So how do you think I could break into the wrestling business as a manager or a referee or of some sort?
Juiced up referees.
Well, none of those referees in the WWF know how to take a bump either, though.
That's amazing. I always I train my referees just like to begin with, like I would a wrestler. The basic bumps, how to protect themselves in that manner, how to take some bumps for other guys, how to give some, because at some point they're going to have to take some anyway. I figure you might. First of all, they should look good. Second of all, protect themselves. So.
Well, you need to go to the WWF because some of those referees, he's right, can not take a bump. I get scared watching it sometimes. Putting an arm back or falling on a shoulder.
I'm the same way with managers. I have them in there bumping and doing the same thing because if you're going to throw them around, first it should be safe and then it also, let's make it look good too.
What's the deal with managers? It's like, you've got like GQ Masters working for you and he can talk really good. And God knows there are so many talented performers in this business that are not great talkers, and there have always been, probably in the last 50 years, many of them, and that was one of the roles of managers, and yet, because I don't know if it's because of women or in lieu of women or what, but traditional managers, they're almost never seen anymore.
I know, isn't that a shame?
Is the Sinister Minister the only manager left in wrestling as a male?
Who?
The Sinister Minister.
Bill Alfonso, but I guess he's not really around because Van Damme's not there.
Right.
So then WCW hires about 50 women.
I've got another kid now, Brock Guthman. He manages the A Squad, and he's as glib as GQ. In fact, he did cut a promo on Ricky Steamboat. We were down at Grand Victoria Casino in our last show in October, and Ricky came back and commented to him and told him, "Man, you're good." In fact, that segues me into January the 26th. We're back at the Grand Vic with Big Show and Mark Henry, and Cornette's going to manage Big Show, and GQ is going to manage Mark Henry. But Guthman and his crew are on the card as well, and we'll probably see the three managers do some vocal dueling at some point in time.
Oh.
So women are just like the managers. Either men have to be referees or broadcasters then.
Well,
men can be.
When you say you're not steroid enhanced, what's your height and weight?
I'm about 5'7" and 150 pounds.
160?
150.
150. Well, at 5'7", if you worked at it, you might carry 185, 190, and look 210. In good shape. How do you know you can't wrestle?
Well, I don't know. I've just looked at those. I've talked to David about this before, just about those steroid-juiced guys, and if you really know that Rey Mysterio is not going to get a push because of his size and stuff like that.
Yeah, but he's a good performer, and he's making a good living. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree that cruiserweight thing down there should all be, realigned, and those guys, should be having good matches. But instead of throwing him out there with guys, the size of Chronic, for Christ's sake, there's
no win. It doesn't make for a good match for a fan to watch.
No. You got two completely different styles, and neither team can conform to the other's style.
It doesn't do anything for either team either.
I was saying to somebody the other day, there's where everybody's talking about old school. There's where old school philosophy comes in too. Why? I was looking when they were talking. I think they're trying to break the Misfits up, and I was sitting there thinking, well, the logical thing to do is because AWOL is the greenest of the group, is to put Chavo with him because Chavo's got more experience and he's a flyer than Lash does. And Hugh is the experienced guy there, and Lash is the flyer. Well, Hugh can get up pretty good too. But then you've got, the big guy, the power, and then you've got the flyer too on both teams. And if you work it right, you could have a good match. But if you put AWOL and Hugh on one team and Chavo and Lash on the other team, you're right back where you started from.
I bet you that we never even get that far, that we actually have those tag team matches.
Dave?
Yes.
Do you actually think that the Scott Steiner-Ric Flair thing will be a money match down the road if WCW does it right?
If they do it right, which is a big if. But, it's hard because I don't know that anything can be... Okay, I don't know that anything can be a money match, but for whatever reason, and I think the rating from Monday shows this, there's more interest in that right now than anything else that they have on the table. The one thing with Ric Flair is that Ric Flair is a tremendous talker when he's motivated, and that's a lot of selling tickets. And Scott Steiner, for a lot of reasons, Scott Steiner has a tremendous amount of charisma because of his look and because of his aggressiveness and everything. And at least you got two guys who are both, what's the word I'm looking for? They both kind of have that aspect of it going. I mean, there's things about it that aren't good, and that's, Rick is old, and Steiner is scary. Nevertheless, we've been through Steiner with like everybody else, and Sid's definitely not the answer. And Flair, when booked correctly, Flair seems to, for whatever reason, have more interest in him than anybody else in that company. I guess maybe because of the long-term respect, or because the older audience will pay attention to him, or I don't know what it is. I just know that Flair can draw TV ratings better than anyone else in that company still, and Steiner's the world champion. So from that standpoint, there's a logical match there, plus the feud. They got a lot of stuff that they could bring up, both legit and worked.
What if Flair takes Lance Storm under his wing, and as he turns him into a more finely honed killing machine, he also converts him and gets rid of the stone face and turns him into a party animal? There's a storyline for you.
And that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
But Flair's been known he could carry a broom to a 5-star match. So I bet if he's put correctly,
there's an old saying in the business: this guy's so good he can have a match with a broomstick and make it look good. That's what you're trying to come up with.
Yeah, but it's Ric Flair though, and he can do it.
Well, I've seen a few other guys that could too, but you're right, he can.
Also, what was the highest rated SmackDown of however long it's been on the air, Dave?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't remember off the top of my head. There's probably somebody listening who will. I know it's gotten up as high as 5.4, but I don't remember what specifically was on that show. It may have been like when they thought Austin was going to be on, like not on this run, but when Austin came back after the WrestleMania. Because I remember all the ratings like during that. Like about a month after last year's WrestleMania, I think is when like everything kind of peaked for WWF when it came to TV ratings. Because Raw's numbers were way up, right around that Backlash pay-per-view. So maybe there you'll hear a there were a couple of 5.4s though, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
Vince won the belt, it was way up there.
I know it was very good. I don't know if it was a record. I know when Schwarzenegger was on, it was very, very good, but it was not a record either. So it was a record at the time, but it's since been topped.
So they've never been over a 6, right?
No, I think 5.4 is as high as it's gotten. I think. Yeah.
And what did you guys think about the Vince McMahon, Linda McMahon interview? Did you think that was really good? Because it was kind of intense.
You got it. Yeah, you guys got to say that because I didn't see it.
I liked it. You haven't seen it, Dave?
No, I didn't see it. Did you, Les? Did you watch that last night?
No, I didn't get a chance to watch it last night.
Oh, I hear it was tremendous. Brian will tell you.
That's what I heard. Yeah, that's what everybody said that I've talked to.
Also, did Arn Anderson interview on Thunder? Arn Anderson's really good at still doing interviews.
what a revelation.
No,
I mean,
it's a broken neck, and he can still go out there and like sell anything. And half the guys in WWE can't even learn to do their interviews right.
Arn Anderson, to me, first of all, I always thought that Arn Anderson should have been Bill Goldberg's manager. Then I thought he should have been Chris Benoit's manager. And then now I think he should be the commissioner and have Rick as CEO above Arn, and have Arn do like the detail work and do the long interviews. And when Rick does the interview, it's more like of a special thing for like a big ruling, if you know what I'm saying. And I think
that would be
idea
too.
Yeah, there's a lot. For a guy who can talk that well, there should be many roles open for him. And why he's working behind the scenes and not in front of the camera when he's the best interviewer in the company, I have no idea.
Well, there's the answer.
You know what else I thought was funny was on Monday when Scott Steiner or whoever, I can't remember who it was, but they were going back there, and there's poor Arn Anderson and Fit Finley working on the production crew, and I thought that has to be a rib on those two.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was you got to see them because they were both involved in the finish.
Yeah.
Because Fit Finley was the guy to keep Ric Flair from doing the run-in, and Arn Anderson was the guy getting beat up.
I just thought of all
the
the jobs they could be doing backstage, though, why be on production?
No, but it made sense because you had to see him there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was actually that to me made sense.
Will WCW start doing house shows soon and stop taping in the same place? Because it's kind of better if they tape like a different Thunder on a different day or something like that in a different town.
There's no plans for that right now. In fact, the plans are to run fewer house shows, not more.
Well, that makes it look so Bush League.
You know, but at the same time, they're trying to cut costs. Eventually, though, and it's what I'm going to ask you about, Les, because we've actually talked about it a few times during the week. When you've only got, let's just talk about Chuck Palumbo, okay? Just for a name, okay? Right now, let's just say he's going to get 5 matches a month. Going to work every Monday and going to work one Sunday for a pay-per-view. So let's just say he's going to do 5 matches a month. How much longer, just for an average guy, do you think it's going to take him before he gets it, if you know what I mean, as compared to if he was working a fuller time schedule? I mean, is it the number of matches?
5 times as long. I mean, probably 5. I mean, he could probably be so much sharper if he were working 5 times a week in a year, and it takes so much longer. That's why I'm saying that those guys, John Elway practiced, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Michael Jordan practiced. I mean, it's not above, and I don't think when I say that, I don't think Chuck thinks that either. But to me, I think it's the company should be, like I said, I would have taken him, between TVs and give him a house show or 2 to boot, or they should still do that. But I mean, not just getting the house shows. I think that's the biggest problem. They're concerned with getting them out in the house shows, and I think that's great. But in those house shows, there needs to be somebody that can critique what they're doing. Somebody might say, well, that guy made a mistake, but they won't know why he made a mistake or how to correct that mistake. So, I mean, that's to me, is the point. A lot of times you say, well, they've got this deal with this guy or this deal with this guy, to let them, work on their house shows. Well, that's great. But they need, if they're sending Orndorff or Sarge or somebody along, to critique it.
I know they're sending JJ to some shows in the Georgia area where they're sending some of the guys.
Does WCW have a deal with NWA Wild something?
Wild,
Wild?
Some sort of working agreement, yeah.
So why don't they just send them to those house shows and then get them ready for Monday and all that kind of stuff?
They do. There's just not a lot of house shows.
But then the other thing is it's like you can't stop them in the middle of a show, an actual house show, and critique what they're doing. So you got to tape that, and then you got to sit down with them and go over the tape, and then get in a ring and now let's walk through it. And that entails them coming into a gym, my gym, the power plant, or whoever's, And that's where I'm getting at. Instead of, when I say inactive, I'm sure they're going to the weight room and whatever else they're doing, through the week between TVs. But at that point, it could be a lot more productive. And I think you would see improvement, if they were consistent with that, over a period of 5 or 6 weeks. You would see a marked improvement. I don't mean they'd be, go from, a 5 on the scale to a 10 or anything like that. But I think these guys all have got potential.
Russ, what's going on with the Shark Boy's career?
He's working at putting on some size. He's perfecting his game. Trying to get him work. We send tapes out. He gets quite a few bookings on the Indies. It's just, to get him a contract, who knows?
Okay, thanks for talking to me, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye. All right, this one's, I guess, Brian, you should probably answer this one since you saw the show. Because after watching last night's SmackDown, you get the idea that WF is slowly bringing back more questionable angles. Then Screaming at Linda is one, Lita Malenko is another that seems to be risque for SmackDown.
Actually, when I was watching the show, particularly like the Lita Malenko thing, when she's in the hotel room stripping down, I was thinking, it's very strange that this should happen 3 weeks after that lawsuit was filed, and in that 3 weeks or whatever, Bozell has been unable to do one SmackDown report or even talk about it, and it's like they've just taken total advantage of that.
Well, that's why they filed the lawsuit.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
I mean, stuff wasn't even bleeped last night.
Really? So they are trying to.
When Foley first got in the ring, Vince said, "You fat ass," and nothing got bleeped.
Well, the whole thing is it's a constant game that's being played, and it's based on the ratings. And now, with the lower the ratings go, and most of it's due to cycling up and down, but the lower the ratings go, the more risque they are going to get, figuring that that's a way to avert the drop.
But it never really affected SmackDown. I mean, SmackDown's always been pretty tame.
And I don't think at this point in time that is the way. I think that's what got the surge to begin with, because it was fresh then. I think now, they've kind of eased back into wrestling, as we call it, and I think that's good. I think now they just need to, let the storylines reflect that a little bit more. To me, listen, I think that Dean Malenko, the kid in Canada was talking about wrestling working with a broomstick. Here's a guy.
Yeah, Monday.
And I was telling one of my kids, we were talking the other night, I don't know if anybody noticed, when he works with Rios, he works from the right side, like Mexican style.
I noticed that once.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he does it well.
Yeah.
The son of a gun.
but I mean, he's got experience in Japan where they're not as. I think that's still more left side oriented.
But I mean, for him to have to go out there and put in 6 minutes with Lita or 7 or whatever, that's it's honestly, it's kind of funny in a way, but it's a waste of talent. There again, she should be in there with Dr. Tom or someplace, learn how to put a match together, and not just the big spots.
Yeah, but she's one of those people who, got over bigger problem. I'm sure bigger than anyone expected when they first threw her out there as a character.
Yes.
And it's like so much so soon, and then it's like, wow, I mean, Lita was a tremendous part of the show, I thought, as someone who ran and did that one Hurricane Rana off the apron because it was so spectacular.
Right.
And didn't really. But now, when she got so popular, the idea is, okay, now we have to, the same problem that happened with China.
Yeah.
China did one spot, it was fine. But now, now that they're so over, we've got to put them in the ring in matches, and they're actually not ready for it.
And
also
expose their weaknesses right away.
Well, and then the other problem is because the other women are not good workers, the feeling is to put them in matches, you've got to put them against the men who are good workers. So you put like a Jarrett or a Jericho or a Dean Malenko in there with them, and then it's kind of like, oh my God, they got to, it's bad on a lot of levels if you do it more than, once or twice a year is okay as a novelty, but when you have men against women as a regular thing, I think it loses its luster.
Yes. And here again, to make it a little more logical, I think if you keep them in mixed tags, where I'm setting you up for my female partner to do something to you, that's more logical than her setting you up herself.
That's a good idea, but I mean, even last night they had the mixed tag with China and Billy versus Val Venus and Ivory. And it's like China's still in the entire time, sold absolutely nothing for Ivory, and was destroying Val Venus the whole match. And I was going, this is not entertaining.
No. And it doesn't, and it really makes no sense because again, it comes back to just basic psychology. If you don't give them something, you haven't beaten anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
we gotta head to. We got to head to a break right now. We're going to come back with more phone calls right after this.
Call us toll free, 1-877-EYADA-99. That's 1-877-EYADA-99.
Okay, the Carmichael training system has helped some of the world's best cyclists get better, but you don't have to be a world-class cyclist to train like one. Join host Simon Assell as he explores the training methods pioneered by Tour de France and Olympic cyclist Chris Carmichael, weekdays on IATA.com's Health, Fitness, and Adventure channel. You can train right or not, but if you do it, make sure it's here on IATA.com weekdays between 6 and 7 p.m. And I also want to remind everyone, IATA's got a brand new look. Take some time and look around while you're here. Our new site makes it easier to navigate, easier to find archive shows, easier to find best ofs. Sample some new shows and enjoy all of your favorites, and thanks for being part of the ever-growing IATA community. Okay, welcome back to the show. We're here with Brian Alvarez, and, of course, special guest today, Les Thatcher. Next week, let's see, Wednesday we got Tom Zink, which will be a very entertaining show for sure. Thursday, we're going to have Randy Hales, the promoter for Power Pro Wrestling in Memphis. We can talk about all the happenings in Memphis, including a lot of the WF talent that's in Memphis, so you can ask him how they're doing, things like that. We are scheduled to have Juventud Guerrera, and it will probably be on Tuesday. It's not 100%.
Will he have his clothes on?
Well, he's going to be doing radio, so he may not. But we'll be talking about him having his clothes off, unfortunately. And we're also working on getting a show with a Japanese guest and talking about Japanese wrestling that may take place Monday. I think it will, but it's not 100%
A Japanese guest meaning?
Someone who speaks English, but he lives in Japan, so we can talk about the Japanese wrestling scene.
Okay.
Not the Great Muda.
I was going to say.
Or Kawada or anybody like that. Before we go into, I want to get this. This is.
How about Jamie Noble? Oh, wait.
Kaz Hayashi. Does he know English? We can't get him anyway right now. This is from Chris, who says, it's that time of the year again, the time of the year when everybody starts to compile their best of 2000 list, so I'm going to be the first one to ask, what are your picks for the top 3 Japanese matches of 2000? Okay, let me think about this. Koichi Kanemoto and Minoru Tanaka against Tatsuhito Takaiwa and Shinjiro Otani when they had the junior tag team title change hands on New Japan. Ken Kobashi and Takao Mori in the Champion Carnival finals in April. And Kobashi and Toshiaki Kawada when they did their singles match, which I think was in January. And I'm trying to think. I saw a match, and I don't even know if it was this year, that was out of this world. It was Minoru Tanaka against Taka Michinoku. It was on a Battle Art show, I'm pretty sure. So if anyone's listening, maybe they'll let me know about that. Best promo of 2000. He says, not to influence your choice. Well, your choice is my choice. Mick Foley retirement promo right before the Hell in a Cell match. No question.
Yeah.
That's best promo of the year. Best worker outside a major promotion. That is so tough. Any picks, guys?
God. That'd be hard to say.
The one that pops in my head is someone who didn't do one worked match all year, and that's Kiyoshi Tamura of Rings, because he did all the shoot stuff. But as a worker, to me, he's, outside of, now that Minoru Tanaka, he's awesome. There's probably some, a lot of, I'll tell you who it is, because I was just watching tapes of him yesterday. Shima Nobunaga.
Yeah.
Have you seen him lately, Brian?
I think last match I saw with him was probably 5 months ago.
Okay. I just was watching a bunch of tapes of him from, I would say these matches are about 2 months old, and he's improved 40% in the last 5 months. I remember I used to compare him to Eddie Guerrero. He blows away Eddie Guerrero now.
Really?
Wow.
He's got the whole thing. WCW ought to bring him in, and, he's got the crowd psychology. He's got the mannerisms. He always had the athletics. Oh, awesome worker. For a guy with, 3 years experience. Yeah, that's the guy. Okay, that's my pick. Let's go to, is it Adon in Toronto?
Hi, how's it going?
It's going very good.
Good. I'm going to do a seminar for my history class on 20th century wrestling history, and I was wondering if I could ask you.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, number 1. When is the first recorded instance of worked fights, and what were they known as?
I know that there was stuff back in the 1880s, probably since, who knows, George Washington and somebody maybe, I don't know. As long as there's been professional wrestling, I would think that if you go back to the Roman gladiator days,
right,
I would bet that when 2 friends were in there fighting each other to the death, I wouldn't be surprised that they worked spots. Wouldn't you, Les? I don't know. Who knows?
Death was on the line?
Yeah. No. But in the Roman Gladiator days, if two guys had a good fight, the loser didn't have to die.
Oh, okay, I see.
So you entertain them with a good fight, and that way you don't have to kill your friend. I would think that you would do that.
Right. Okay.
I don't know, Les, what are your thoughts as far as that goes?
Well, I don't know. I would agree. I think people have understood that they can do business. They do business, to draw money. And everybody's different. I don't know that there would be any, if you probably ask 20 people, you get 20 different answers on when it first happened.
Yeah, I know I've seen newspaper stories from the 1880s where you could clearly see that the professional matches were worked. So, like, if you hear, like, it's 1920 or 1930, it certainly goes way before then, way before the turn of the century.
Right.
But I don't know that all the matches were worked back then either.
Okay. And number 2, who would you say are a few of the most influential and important names of wrestling's past?
Ricky Dozan.
Frank Gotch, without a doubt.
Strangler
Lewis, absolutely. You got to put Hogan and Bruno Sammartino in there.
Right.
Luthez in there?
Luthez, absolutely. Buddy Rogers. Inoki and Baba for sure.
Gorgeous George,
absolutely. God, Carl Stern did like a list. God, I wonder if I have that around here somewhere. Of the most influential people. If you include promoters, certainly like Vince McMahon Jr., Sam Mushnick, Billy Sandow, Toots Mondt. There's Eddie Graham, Jack Pfeffer,
Jim Crockett Sr.
Yeah, Jim Crockett Sr. better than I would.
Yeah.
But Eddie. I think I said Eddie Graham. But anyway, those would be some that are spread off the top of my head. Hackenschmidt to an extent. Rocca, maybe Vern Gagne.
Yeah.
Certainly. Those are some names.
Okay. And who would you say are the most important people today?
Most influential people as far as business-wise today?
Like in 10 years, who will we be looking back at? In the way that we look back at, I'd say like maybe Arn Anderson.
Steve Austin and The Rock.
Yeah.
I think we're right up there, Hunter.
Maybe you're talking about just people, McMahon.
Well, most influential guy in the business is McMahon by leaps and bounds. Sure. Bischoff was real influential, for sure, yeah. As far as like longevity and everything, on top, he didn't really have it, but he did change.
But people are still going to look back in 10 years and look at him as the guy that pretty much started the boom.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hogan.
And always the architect of the big loss this year.
Yeah,
not only did he start the boom, but he set them up to lose all the money they lost.
So put Russo on the list, too.
Very influential, Russo. Hopefully not long-term influential, and hopefully only short-term influential.
Come on, you guys. What? Would he really have to be on the list?
Influential isn't necessarily good.
No, it's certainly not.
No. You have to give his influence. As far as WWF, even if you go to the argument that WWF got better after he left, the fact is he was a real important part of changing Vince McMahon's way of thinking, and it paved the way. He belongs on it, but as far as absolutely, Paul Heyman, probably more than most of those names we just said. Yeah.
Okay. And I have one more question.
Sure.
Wrestling has changed a lot in the past 10 years in terms of style and popularity and product and things like that. Where do you see pro wrestling in the next 10 years?
God only knows. I can't even predict 8 months from now.
Right.
So I wouldn't even want to predict 10 years. It could be much bigger than ever if whoever is in charge is, in tune with what's going on. And it could be dead in 10 years. I don't think it will be.
I think at a very basic level still be like traditional professional wrestling.
So you don't think
I think there's going to have to always be something of similar.
No wrestling at all?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I think there'll be some no matter how weak it gets, there'll be something out there.
Right.
It may not be huge. Well, the one thing is that because there's so many TV stations that are out there and you need time to fill and wrestling will always do competitors, I think that there'll be some, like presence of wrestling on these cable networks. I just think that it'll always be there just because it's not like the days of, like if you had 7 TV stations in your market, you may not get a wrestling show if wrestling's in a week period, but when you got 200 stations on TV, someone's always going to go with pro wrestling. Yeah, it'll be around just like these programs.
Now that brings up a point too. As you expand that, there's more stations, then they need more programming. So a lot of these old shows, these classics, whatever you want to call them, we're going to come out of mothballs. So now that's going to educate people to what you might call traditional or classic wrestling, which will make them want to see it if they like it.
Yeah.
So that's going to always keep it in the mix, I think, in that manner as well.
Yeah, the thing, because of the TV, and the other thing is, even if it's weak, let's say 8 years from now, just as an example, and it got very weak, there are so many people who would have grown up with what's going on this year and last year and the year before when it was huge, that will go, let's say Vince's thing goes down, there will always be some rich network executive who's going to go in there and go, when it's done right, that pro wrestling is huge, and we'll want to do it just like those guys did with the roller jam that failed, but I mean they tried. We'll do
How
the
about
easy
the
one first.
Toriyama?
Influential? Oh yeah, don't you think?
Yeah.
Ricky Choshu, but not American wise. But I mean for Japanese business, just as a booker and wrestler, Mick Foley.
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt. Probably for an era of the Road Warriors, Dusty Rhodes.
Gordon Soley.
As for announcers, yeah.
I mean, he actually reshaped the business quite a bit.
Yeah.
Or the way people perceived it, anyway.
Yeah. Real quick, before we get into a serious one, not that this isn't serious, but this is from Chris, who is asking Les, what's going on with Helena Heavenly and Rory Fox? And has WWF or WCW had any interest in them? Rory Fox, your most famous protege.
Yes. Our MTV boy. Yes, Rory did a WCW Worldwide in August, and they liked his work. It hasn't gone any farther than that. Helena did the thing with Ivory in Cleveland for WWF, and she went to up to North Dakota back in the winter for WCW, but got left on the cutting room floor, so to speak. But what little workouts you had with them, they were impressed with that. So they're still in there plugging and trying to find their spot. I think they'll both end up with something. Can I do a shameless plug along those lines?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, talking about girls and Helena, the day after our Grand Victoria Casino show in Rising Sun, Saturday the 27th, here in town, over at our training center, we're doing a free women's clinic, myself, Malaya Osaka, and Helena. And it's from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and any aspiring young ladies that, would consider being wrestlers are more than welcome to come. There's no charge. And
cool.
So we'd be a Q&A and demonstrations in the whole 9 yards. So we also do a kids clinic now, Dave, to kind of offset this backyard thing.
Uh-huh.
And it's been real successful. We've done it in a couple indoor soccer facilities and done it in the afternoon before we did our show that evening. And our guys, do a little stuff with these kids and, punch away at the stay in school, finish school, don't do this at home, and cut promos, feed them a little pizza and, Coke and that sort of thing. And the kids seem to have a good time, and, we're trying to promote some safety in this thing, too.
Brian.
Yeah. How about Matt Taglia?
Matt, I don't.
Matt Taglia.
He may be back in rehab. I don't know, Brian.
Oh.
Actually, he went back to rehab twice after he left us, that I'm aware of. Bless his heart. I don't know. That's the shame was the kid was a decent athlete.
Yeah. I remember watching him on MTV. You could tell, but he didn't have the drive.
No.
Yeah. I mean, you could see. Even in the MTV thing, you could see. It's just, you could see him get up and down and everything like he had the
any time of he was under any type of pressure to excel. That's when he seemed to disappear and hide with the drugs. So obviously, and if you can't handle pressure in this business, you're in the wrong business.
Oh, I tell you what, for everyone who's listening that wants to be in wrestling, one thing, you have to learn to handle depression and not let it get to you.
Yes.
Because for all of the ups, and you'll have your ups and you'll have your downs, and you'll have a lot of both. There's no one, not Ric Flair, not Vince McMahon, not Hogan, that hasn't been through some major down periods and you got to be able to fight your way back up from them. I mean, Vince McMahon lost millions of dollars for years and years.
Sure. Well, if the first
came back.
WrestleMania hadn't been successful, he would be working for somebody else, I think.
Yeah, I know. He'd be working for Vern. Which is a scary thought. Speaking of Vince McMahon, Brian Bozell wrote back. I don't have all of it, and it's far too many pages to bring up here, but if you are interested, it's on the PTC website. It's page after page of point by point.
From last night?
No, of the lawsuit.
Oh.
It's Brent Bozell's response to the lawsuit. Let me just see if I can. I mean, it's so much detail. Let me just see if I can find some stuff. Okay, the PTC got involved with poll call mode. Okay. It triggered a callous letter from Vince McMahon to me dismissing our efforts while threatening retaliatory action against me. Among other things, he suggested he would introduce a character on his show designed to ridicule me. In fact, that was the original sign guy, remember? You know that guy? He was only in for about a couple weeks. Now they got the RTC. We continued with our efforts and soon saw the results. Advertisers started pulling their spots. In mid-December, the Coca-Cola Corporation publicly withdrew sponsorship, and finally Vince McMahon was forced to concede the impact this was having. While continuing to smear the PTC publicly, he announced on December 16th to the Wall Street Journal that SmackDown would tone down. It did marginally, as we expected, slowly return to its old ways. Well, I guess maybe last night. Let's see. During the Republican National Convention, I was put on CNN Live to debate The Rock, one of SmackDown's most popular figures. In that debate, he roundly denied we were having any impact whatsoever on the show's success. He did say that, but Bozell did not do well in that debate, as I recall. In the meantime, WF fans were attempting to wreak havoc on the PTC.
Well, that's what we're doing.
Yes, they were. Rumors about me were spread all over the Internet. One week I was exposed as an employee of the Unification Church. The following week I was upgraded to a member of that cult. Now, if you get to the nuttiest Internet stuff, I mean, my God, I can just imagine the stuff that's been said about all of us on the Internet at some point in our lives. Okay. PTC staff was harassed with hundreds of obscene emails, contained viruses that wound up destroying more than one computer. Oh, boy. I am not surprised. There were threats of violence and even death threats against the PTC staff in general and me personally. I'm sure there was. One such death threat was aimed at Joseph Lieberman, turned into the FBI and taken seriously enough the FBI turned it over to the Secret Service for investigation. God, I wish every wrestling fan...
Yeah, that's a good campaign there, fans.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, every fan, if you disagree with them or agree with them, and I mean, like I said, they have points that I agree with and more points than not that I don't. But the point is, whatever you do, write well-reasoned letters and try to give your points. And if you go in there and you try to do death threats and things like that, all you're going to do is spur people to work harder against you. It's just that will backfire every time.
Yes.
Anyway,
Mike Bozell's going to get a death threat and go from a fan and go, oh well, let's end this campaign.
Okay, though the WWF continued to deny the PTC was having an effect, the facade came tumbling down in early October when on the heels of the WWF's advertising revenue was going to be less than projected on its third quarter report, its market value crashed 35% in one day. I remember that day. That's not exactly the reason. It actually wasn't the advertising revenue. He's fibbing here. It was the licensing, wasn't it? And merchandise.
Yes, I think it was.
It was more the Jack's Toys than the advertising revenue. So he's fibbing here. Okay, with that, WWF made a complete turnaround, suddenly blamed the PTC for all its ills, and began making legal threats against the organization through selected press statements. Our response was that we would not be intimidated into stopping our efforts. The lawsuit was filed November 9th. So now he goes through point after point. I mean, you can look it up on, I'm sure it's on the PTC website. Let me see. They talk about it. Here he is. He's basically defending himself against being a racist. Let's see. I'll just go with one. Quote, he is against televised references to sex, humor against sex, sexual innuendo, sexual banter, and most of all, against anything. This is actually I found this so funny when I read it in the suit, although it was stupid for a lawsuit, where he says, and anything that implies that people, in fact, enjoy sex. So anyway, this is his response. I don't wonder if he enjoys it. Okay. One has to assume that WWF, in its diligent investigation of my statements over the years, has read that I have said on innumerable occasions that I distinguish between subject matter presented to adults and subject matter presented to children. Am I against raw sexual activity displayed in such a disgusting manner to millions of youngsters every week on television? Guilty as charged. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Bozell. Okay. He goes, Bozell also controls and operates the Conservative Victory Committee, which contributes to candidates who approximate Bozell's extreme views. Then he goes, response is, George Bush, who the CBC endorsed for president, is also an extremist then. So, let's see. You can look at let me get off of this. Get back to the phone calls. We got a full bank. Let's go to Sean. Sean, what's up?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, John.
I got a couple things real quick. My first comment is, every time I see Palumbo, he just reminds me of Weird Al, like Weird Al Yankovic with that hair. I don't know, maybe he needs a haircut like Venus got. But anyway, first question I got is to Les, actually. It's a pleasure talking to you, but if you had to elevate somebody, maybe one or two guys within WWF and WCW, who would you elevate to main event status?
Right at this point in time, well, I don't know. Do you I think, wow, WWF, I think they're doing a pretty good job of mixing. The guys that are up there, I think, belong there. I'm trying to think of somebody that's not really getting a shot. Now, do you consider Jericho a top guy?
Close.
Okay.
He's one who could be elevated to the next level.
Yeah,
I think Jericho and Benoit are on the bubble. I mean, Angle's got the belt, but he's not portrayed as a tippity top, up there with Undertaker.
Right.
To me, the top guys are Rock, Austin, Undertaker, and Triple H.
Right.
As far as like their portrayal and
well, those Angle and Benoit and Jericho, immediately, and I think because of size, and size is a factor whether we want it to be or not, that they're more in a convertible situation where they can work with anybody. Guerrero is a hell of a hand, but size is a factor there to some degree, I don't think that they've scratched the surface with him totally. I liked him in China. I thought they had great chemistry.
Yeah.
I hated to see that broken up.
Better China and Billy.
Yeah, but I don't see size as a matter anymore, because I remember watching Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker back in the day, and in the Hell in the Cell, and that was a huge mismatch. But, it was still a great match. So I
don't know that it means as much, but I think still, if not, I think subconsciously it registers on a lot of people.
Well, Sean's still.
I think Sean's still 6 inches taller than Eddie, though.
Yeah,
Sean's still a lot taller than even Benoit and those guys. Because I think what's Sean legit? 6 feet or 6'1"?
I think 6 feet tall.
Around 6 feet, I think.
Yeah,
okay, because I say legitimately Benoit's probably 5'8.5", and Eddie's probably closer to 5'7".
Right. Yeah, I think that's about right. I think in WCW, Storm immediately.
Yeah. I was thinking Storm.
To me, Awesome's the one in my mind.
Yeah.
He's missing one thing. I think the gimmick is killing him, but now you're talking about a big, agile guy who works very, very hard, and was starting to get over. Storm in the ring, I think with the right guidance, Storm in 6 months or 3 months could be that, but they got to focus on it. It's not going to come as easy to me.
Exactly. No, that's true too. But I like the way they started with the kid. I thought, man, this is great. And then they just pulled his pins right out from under it.
Yeah, that one. When they did that angle with Nash, and he's never been pushed since then. No. To me, that was just like, I hated that. Remember that? You remember that, Brian?
Yep.
Oh God, it was like he was starting to get over, and then that whole thing of, he got a real. Remember that one the next day? Well, he got a rub from being in the same ring with Nash. It's like, oh yeah, okay, great.
Yeah, great.
Right. Yeah. I'll tell you what I would do is reform for entertainment value and some substance in the card is with Chavo and LaRue and Ray Jr. and Billy. I don't care if there's a stigma on calling somebody a cruiserweight or not. Those four as a nucleus, and then there's some other guys there too. And build that thing back.
Okay, we got to get running because we got a bunch of callers that we got to get to. Charles, what's up?
Hey,
Charles. Hey, Charles, how you doing?
This is Tom.
Oh, Tom.
Well,
hello.
Anyway, Tom, what's going on?
Nothing much. I just wanted to ask Les. I'm kind of a big guy, and I want to get into wrestling, but is there any hope if you're kind of like a size like Mick Foley or say something like that to get into wrestling and make it today?
That's Mick. He makes everybody not want to get in shape.
Oh.
The best. Mick makes the joke and says it's in his contract he's not allowed to work out.
Yeah.
Because he has to look that way. But I tell my kids, get in shape.
It always helps.
Yes. Because first of all, he's already there. That's the other thing. Mick was in a little better shape crazy when I say it drive me crazy. I was probably the same way, when I was in that same position. But they said, well, I saw this guy on TV that I'm a better worker than, blah, blah, blah. And that's probably true, but that guy's already there. He can tend.
Ed Leslie.
What?
Bruce Beefcake. Every young kid watching wrestling in the 80s, I'm a better worker than that guy.
They watched The Ultimate Warrior, and they knew they were better workers than that.
That's another one, yeah.
Yes. Well, now that I understand, John Tenta and Sandman are both opening schools.
Oh,
Yeah, John Tena's already got a school open.
John Tenta, I remember, he had a school, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's always an exception. The one thing with Mick Foley is that he's like one of the 5 greatest interviewers that probably ever lived, so that helped a lot.
Sure, exactly. Well, and they always told me years ago about size. If you can make yourself into a hell of a worker, nobody will remember what size you are anyway.
Sure.
But that's the key, and of course that takes, there's with Benoit. Does anybody really care what size he is?
No, he can wrestle big though because he comes off as tough.
Yes, exactly. Well, it's in his body language, his facials, right? I mean, it's the way he carries himself walking to the ring. You know he's going to kick somebody's butt.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way he comes across. And again, that's part of the game, and that's what we were talking about. I was alluding to earlier. Stuff like that is what makes the big things work. The little things like that are so all important because they cement the package together.
Yeah, I remember one thing is the first time I saw Scott Norton, in Japan.
Okay.
And Scott Norton is a terrible worker, always has been a terrible worker. And when he went to Japan, they gave him a big push, and he was much bigger star in Japan than ever was in this country. And I was going like, I don't get Scott Norton. Why is he a star here? I remember walking down the aisle of the Tokyo Dome, and they just go, look at the way he walks down the aisle. He walks like he's a star, which is the only thing he did like he was a star, but they were right.
But back to Buddy, we were talking about Buddy Rogers, and that's the one thing I remember as a kid, watching him come down that aisle with that strut and that tan, and you didn't see the dark roots on that bleached hair, and just the way he carried himself, his stature, you knew he was the man.
Yeah.
Fez in a room like that, Fez and Rogers both, you can be standing with your back to the door, and you will feel them come into the room.
Tom, anything else?
Just real quick, if you want to know how to write to the Parents Television Council, go to ptcsucks.com, and they'll tell you how to do it right.
Okay, and that's right. And if you're going to do it,
do it right.
Don't write a death threat, and don't threaten Joseph Lieberman.
Yeah, they actually
spell check.
They actually have pre-made.
Don't confirm what they're trying to tell everybody anyway. That we're all bloodthirsty idiots, right?
I know. That's there's always going to be just enough to make everybody look bad, unfortunately.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. All right. You're very welcome. Any more calls? Is Charles on the line? Okay, Charles, how you doing?
Hey, Dave. How's it going? Brian and Les.
Hey.
All right. Quickly, Les. I heard you guys talking earlier, and I just think it's such a. I've always thought it was such a great idea for guys to go from the WCW power plant, and then instead of coming directly on TV, to going and working with maybe an NWA regional promotion or some other regional promotion, so they can take the knowledge that they get from the power plant out of the realm of theory and make practical application of it. Refine and hone their trade, learn how to work an audience, learn psychology, so on and so forth, and not just know it, but actually get some experience doing it, and then come to television. And I wonder if that will ever be fully practiced.
It probably won't, because life itself is in such a hurry today, and of course our business, and of course they're in such a hurry to turn things around. But I agree with you. That's totally necessary. You can't make that jump. It's like going from high school basketball to the NBA. How many guys actually do that? It's too big a gap, and they need to refine themselves, and not when the money's on the line. It's just like you're not going to put a kid in and try to teach him to be a quarterback in the Super Bowl, or at least not if you can help it. And that's, to me, the television and the pay-per-views are the payoff. So you don't want the guy, that's not the place he should be airing his mistakes and trying to improve upon them.
Excuse me, go ahead, Dave.
The one thing that WWF really has done well in the last couple of years is creating this Ohio Valley and Memphis thing, where these guys are getting 4 or 5 nights a week of work, and they're gonna turn out some guys because they're they're in class every day, and then they're wrestling every night in front of the people. Even if it's not a lot of people, it's still in front of people.
Sure.
And when they get their tryouts in the WWF, I mean, they're not gonna be guys that can work a match in the gym, and then when they're in front of people, they can just do the robotic match, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
Kurt Angle.
Yeah. Well, that's probably the. I mean, he's a 1 in a million, or 1 in 1,000, but that is they're gonna develop a lot more Kurt Angles with this system than with the WCW system.
Yeah. Starting this next Tuesday night, we're going to do a free show every Tuesday night at our place. We're going to run an abbreviated training session, like from 4:30 to 6:15, and then run a Tuesday night show free. So, I mean, some of the guys that are working on a weekly basis are going to work on the show as well. But our kids who aren't quite ready to go out, we figure we can get them in front of some people that way and iron the bugs out before we put them out in front of a bigger audience.
Yeah, I just think that's such a smart way to do it. It's a way of taking the old principles of allowing the guys to perfect their craft to become good and, putting it in a modern setting.
I think, too, Tommy Pritchard and I have discussed this in length on several occasions. I think that what made our generation so technically sound was that as we worked in different territories, I may latch onto a veteran in this particular territory whose specialty is body language and pick his brain, and then 6 months or a year later you move to another territory, then there's this guy who's more about psychology or so you get a chance to learn from a lot of different people. And
Absolutely.
Of course you're working 4, 5, 6 nights a week.
The other thing also is every territory had its own little personality.
Yes, exactly. And you had to learn the style there. I remember the first time I went into Louisiana for Lee Fields and started to wrestle and come back. Kenny Lucas says, "That ain't going to work, baby." He said, "Babyface is here. Grab a chair." It's just a different territory, a different thing. Forget wrestling
really
and come back. Start kicking that butt. So.
They would have some experience in actually getting crowd reaction, even though it would be smaller crowds, but they would come on TV more confident.
Well, and it's tougher to work those crowds.
Yeah.
Honestly. It's tougher to get 35 people into a match than it is 3,000 or 300. We
got to run. We're totally out of time. I want to thank Charles for calling. Of course, thanks Les and Brian and Mike. And we will be back Monday. I think we'll probably we'll be talking about everything going on over the weekend, and hopefully we'll talk about Japanese wrestling, and we'll see you at 6.